Greetings and salutations, this is Perfect Reject WolfSnake Games, and I'm here to bring you guys another hands-on review of a console that's a little older than modern. But first, as you can see, white, blue, orange, all the colors of the Dreamcast, black, because they did release a black model in Japan, and all that jazz. 14 years old. Here's to you. I'm going to have to finish that later. But as a bit of shame for being so slow, I'm going to do this whole review with icing on my nose. Unless it falls off. Oh yeah. Yeah. This is my punishment, Sega. I apologize. But it'll be funny, I think. Now, today we're going to be going over the Nintendo Gamecube. Had to remove something first. As you can see, it has this very big commanding dot on the front that says Nintendo Gamecube. This is actually the size of the disc that this system runs, and I'll go over those in a little bit. You have this little flip top, which every console that had this, and you guys are probably laughing your asses off, ain't you? Well, every console that had this is probably one of my more favorite. Just because when you had this, you had a lot less to worry about breaking. You have a little light down here to let you know if the power's on. Your reset button, your power button. A lot of systems actually got rid of the reset button. And in your Nintendo Awesomeness logo thing here. On the front, you have 4 controller ports. Now, they're labeled with dots, 1 dot, 2 dot, 3 dot, 4 dot. This was a mainstream thing. Every console was getting these now. And by the way, the distance in the camera is just so you guys can see that I talk with my hands. 2 memory card slots. This is the first Nintendo system that needed memory cards. The Nintendo 64 had them, but most games actually didn't need them because of the simple fact that when you're on a cartridge, you can pretty much save it to the cartridge. So this is the first console that actually really needed them. On both sides, you have the same thing, a vent and this little strange lip, and I'll get to that in a minute. And the lip. On the back of the console, you had your power input right here below the handle, which I'll get to, a analog video output and a digital video output. Well, the digital video output was your red, your blue, and your green output, so you could plug it into your TV for high definition output. But the problem is, these were only sold by Nintendo, and they were sold in very such small quantities from their website only that you can't really get your hands on them too easily nowadays. And they actually removed this from later consoles because nobody had TVs at this point in time. I mean, this console was released on November 18th of 2001. And these TVs weren't really that popular. They were just taking flight, if you will. And then you have the little cooling vent down here. So, I mean, this system has plenty of cooling in it. And it's a very sturdy system, too. You could probably take this thing and throw it off of a two-story building. A cupcake. On the bottom, you had your high-speed port, which the only thing I know of for it was the Game Boy Advance player, but I'll get to that in a minute. You had your serial port 1 and your serial port 2. Serial port 2 in later consoles was removed because it was never used. Your serial port 1 was your broadband adapter port, so what you do is you plug in your broadband adapter, hop online, play. Only 3 games utilized this, so it was pointless to buy unless you're a collector. And even more so now that you can't actually connect online, and even the communities I doubt would set up any sort of servers for free games. And then your Game Boy Advance player. Now the Game Boy Advance player plugged into the high-speed port. On the front you can see there's a slot here. You could plug in your Game Boy Advance games, your Game Boy games, and your Game Boy Color games. So you could play them all right there. You had this little ejector thing in case you were not capable of grabbing and pulling it out for whatever reason. You had your extension cable port here so you could actually plug and play with other people, which would be pointless if you were playing something like Pokemon where they could see every decision you made. But overall, really good system if you need something to record your older handheld games. And here you go. Now just keep in mind, if you actually get this, you actually need a disc, which I don't have. It runs about $20. The piece of hardware itself runs for about $5. So altogether about $25. Just to give you guys a look at the memory cards, there you go. Purple one, I have no idea who made it, and a Mad Catz Probably illegal to hold a controller by its wire like this, probably breaking so many electronic laws, but it'll be fine because these things are pretty sturdy. When I was younger, I used to swing them around like helicopters because I was an idiot, but it still worked. So, whatever. Now, we're going to go from one side to the other. Now, the joystick first. The joystick was something that they needed a lot of help with. Nintendo needed a lot of help with, and they done a good job. The Nintendo 64 had this rugged, sharp, hard plastic joystick that was in a very small focal point and so easily just messed up. I mean, you can see this one's a little loose, but even that, it's not going to kill the responsiveness of this thing just because it's so well made. Now, the D-pad, on the other hand, it could use a little more work. I mean, it's small, not really nice for somebody like me with massive hands. Well, not really massive, but bigger than should be for this kind of controller. So the D-pad's a little small. It's made of hard plastic, so it will kind of wear on your finger after using it a little while. Your start button is here. They got rid of the select button, which is interesting because of the fact that Sony and Microsoft picked up using the select button, and Nintendo got rid of it with the 64 and on. Then you have your C-stick, something that Nintendo kind of added to their stuff, the C-sticks or C buttons or what have you, and they've been sticking with it. Now this actually, the C-stick has a very small top to it, so it's not very nice and your finger just kind of slips off of it really easy as opposed to this one. Yeah. And then your B button is really small. Your X and Y buttons have made a return from these SNES days, but they're awkwardly bean-shaped, and it takes a little getting used to. This whole controller does, because it's just different. Your A button is really big and commanding right in the middle. Everything's within easy reach of each other after you get used to it, but really getting used to it is the problem. Now, if you look at the top of the controller, you have these two triggers. They're really spongy. As you can see, there's a lot of distance to travel to push them down, and there's even a little bit more because of a click. If they just had that little click section, that would have been fine for me, but something about my brain just tells me I need to hit the whole thing down in order for it to respond. Then you have this little Z button right here. Now the Z button is actually really nice in so many ways, but the only problem I've seen with it is when you have to hit the Z button and you have to hit the Y or the X button, it gets a little awkward because you just feel like you're trying to pinch something, and it's not really something you need to be doing when you're playing the control. But overall, it has a nice, really good for our grip. It's a little small for my hands. My thumbs kind of, or my pinkies just kind of fall off of it. So I wish it was a little bit bigger, but you know what? Xbox done that. So, and Dreamcast. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about the history of it, and that's something, first off, we're going to go over the disc. Now, the disc were actually these little 8mm discs. They are actually DVD discs. They were commissioned by Nintendo specifically for this console. And the reason they done it is so that they could try to fight piracy, because these little discs are going to be a lot harder to pirate than your regular DVDs. So that's one of the reasons they commissioned it. Another reason they commissioned it is because they wanted to make that transfer to disc, but they wanted something unique, which they did get with these miniature discs. The unfortunate thing is these discs only had the capacity for 1.5 gigs of data, whereas PlayStation and Xbox on their DVDs had 8.5 gigabytes worth of data. And the Dreamcast had 1.2 gigabytes, which we all saw what happened there anyway. So, for time, as games started to develop and everything throughout the Nintendo's lifespan, or GameCube's lifespan, the games actually, they started having to further compress the video and the audio in order to fit them on these little discs, where they had to start splitting them into multiple discs. And even so, it just wound up not looking as good as it could. So they wound up, third-party developers kind of started falling off of it, which it took a struggle for them to get third-party back, because they lost a lot with the Nintendo 64 due to Sony PlayStation 2 coming out and thwarting the Sega Dreamcast completely off the market. Everybody was looking at the Sega, or the Sony PlayStation 2 as like this holy grail of gaming systems at this point, and they started moving to it. Now, that's just one of the couple of things that Nintendo did. There were a couple of things you have to look at, like how was Nintendo supposed to compete with both Microsoft and Sony? Because Microsoft announced that they were coming out with a new console, and both Sony and Microsoft were companies widespread over the entire community. They made well, Sony made TVs and DVD players, and now they're in the console wars. Microsoft makes all sorts of like computer goodliness, and now they're in the console wars. They made so much money from all their other developments, and this is starting to annoy me a little bit. I can feel it, and I just like want to get it off. But they had so much money from all of these other developments, and they could just throw out these consoles and not really give any shits, for lack of better ways to put it, about how far the console went, because if it failed, they'll just make another one. Because now they've got a fan base, something to start with, and they'll just make the next one bigger and better. So it's not that big of a deal. And Sony proved that they could do that with this PlayStation 1. There we go. And it worked. It worked for Sony, and Microsoft saw that. So now they're taking their moment to step in. So what could GameCube do? They done the whole transfer to the disc thing. And they started to feel a little boxed in, and they started trying to develop games the best they could. They actually got Sega to come over and join them. So right now, Sega and Nintendo are the only ones making games with a few third-party developers, and they're really trying to push their fan base back up and get those third-party developers to join them again. And with time, they started to, and the only couple of games that really put them in a good situation with their only other problem was games like Metroid Prime and Super Smash Brothers. It was a little too violent for kids. You know, that's what I'm talking about. Look at the console again. It's this big purple block, and they pushed this so hard on their advertisements, is this indigo color. If they would have chose black, it probably would have worked out, but who's going to buy what seems to be only sold in indigo by every bit of their advertisement? All my other consoles are black or white. Why am I going to want this odd color out? Well, in Japan, they actually had spice, and they pushed the advertisement for the spice there. It just looks like this kid's toy, and then with all the different colors on the front of the controller, it looks more so like a kid's toy. But like I said, Metroid Prime came out. There was a Star Wars game that came out. There was Star Fox Adventures came out, which was kind of in the right direction, but people felt like it wasn't really a Star Fox game, which kind of started pushing some of the hardcore fan base away. And then you had your Legend of Zelda line. And all of these games look so amazing. At E3 that year, they showed this high-definition, awesome graphics of the new Zelda game coming out. And then we got Wind Waker. Now, don't get me wrong. I love this game. This is my favorite Legend of Zelda game, actually. But this is not what we were shown at E3 that year. And a lot of people who were looking forward to this game, when they saw this, they were like, nope, that's it. Nope, I can't do it. That Nintendo is for children. It's for the family. It's for everybody except for the hardcore gamers, the core gamers that really are there to buy your system. You're trying to sell this to the grandparents that don't know any better about like what's what. It just looks kid friendly. And now we're looking at the Wii and the advertisements they've got for that. And the Wii U, the advertisements they got for that. They've got so much that is gearing towards the children. Now, I'm not saying that the Wii is not doing good, although now that they're making games, we might see some good stuff. But the GameCube is the closest thing that Nintendo ever had to a failure. The Dreamcast came in, wiped off the market. The 64, when the PlayStation 2 was released, it didn't see very good days. And now the GameCube, now, the Nintendo 64 was second place in the console wars. Sony, then Nintendo, then Sega. Now you have the GameCube, and now you have Xbox coming out. Sega's still technically in this console war, and now you have Sony. So, you have Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, Sega. Well, Sony made first place. Microsoft made second place with 24 million units sold. GameCube made 22 million. Sega, well, we all know what happened there. So, yeah. So that's pretty much all I've got to say about the Nintendo GameCube. I'm just going to go ahead and leave this video off here. If you liked it, give it a comment, rate, like, subscribe, do what you do. If you like this video, give it a lick. And this is Perfect Reject, signing out. Can I finally do something with this icing? Okay, thank you.